It's now the second full day of a fragile ceasefire with Iran, and while Israeli officials insist the campaign against Tehran is far from over, regional focus is shifting once again back to Gaza, where today marks day 629 of the war. But as tensions sizzle, people have wondered where Iran's supreme leader has been. But today, he made his first public appearance in a televised statement after hiding in an underground bunker for days, fearing his assassination. Khamenei congratulated Iran for a victory over the United States and Israel, claiming the U.S. only entered the war so Israel wouldn't be destroyed. Contrary to the Islamic Republic leader, Israeli and American officials continue to say the regime was hit deeply, obliterating their nuclear facilities in addition to Israel eliminating hundreds of the regime's personnel and senior staff. He also said the Islamic Republic caused damage to the Al Udeid airbase in Qatar after they fired ballistic missiles at it, which is false, as well as the missiles were intercepted and no U.S. soldiers were injured. There was also no damage to the base. And U.S. President Donald Trump says the U.S. will meet Iran next week, but that a nuclear deal is no longer needed after its weapons program has been destroyed. Trump also weighed in on an Israeli legal issue, calling for the dismissal of the corruption trial against Prime Minister Netanyahu. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has more.
U.S. President Trump announced that a meeting will take place between U.S. and Iranian officials next week, but says that after the 12-day Iran war and destruction of Iranian capabilities, a nuclear deal is no longer needed.
We're going to talk to them next week with Iran. We may sign an agreement. I don't know. To me, I don't think it's that necessary. I mean, they had a war, they fought. Now they're going back to their world. I don't care if I have an agreement or not. The only thing we'd be asking for is what we were asking for before about we want no nuclear, but we destroyed the nuclear. In other words, it's destroyed. I said Iran will not have nuclear. Well, we blew it up. It's blown up to kingdom come. And so I don't feel very strongly about it. If we got a document, wouldn't be bad.
While returning home from the U.S.-NATO summit in The Hague, the U.S. president weighed in on a key legal matter in Israel, calling for the dismissal of the corruption trial against Prime Minister Netanyahu. In a post on Truth Social, Trump describes the trial against Netanyahu as a witch hunt and a long-running horror show. Trump called the case politically motivated in order to do Netanyahu great harm. Netanyahu called for the trial to be immediately canceled or Netanyahu given a pardon. Trump finished by writing, "It was the United States that saved Israel, and now it's the United States that saves Bibi Netanyahu. This travesty of justice cannot be allowed." Prime Minister Netanyahu is on trial in 3 corruption cases, facing charges of fraud and breach of trust in 2, and bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in the 3rd. Netanyahu denies any wrongdoing and says the charges were fabricated in a political coup led by the police and state prosecution. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister briefed the cabinet on the 12-day Iran war with a host of key security and political issues on his agenda, in addition to the trial.
יש לנו ניצחון גדול במערכה נגד הצורר שבא לכלותנו, והסרנו בניצחון הזה 2 איומים קיומיים מיידיים כדי להבטיח את נצח ישראל.
Thank you, Steve, for that report. And in Israel, families are mourning extreme losses as they continue to lay to rest the 7 IDF soldiers killed in Gaza this week, while others continue to plead for the return of their loved ones still held hostage by terror groups in Gaza. At the same time, diplomatic momentum following the Iran ceasefire is reportedly opening new doors for a possible hostage deal and ceasefire deal in Gaza. But despite the progress, humanitarian aid to the Strip is once again being halted. Here's what you need to know. The casket of Sergeant Shachar Manoav is lowered into the ground by fellow soldiers as the sounds of final prayers are made as his body is now laid to rest. As his family says their final goodbyes, they remember the soldier from Ashkelon as always having a positive spirit, lifting morale even in his final hours alive. The 21-year-old is one of the 7 soldiers from the Combat Engineering Battalion who were killed in a battle in Khan Yunis after their vehicle had an explosive planted on it by a terror operative. As families mourn the heartbreak, the families of hostages continue to plead for the return of their loved ones, as 50 of them are still being held in dire conditions by terror groups inside of Gaza. The Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesperson said this week momentum was created by the ceasefire with Iran and Israel and says they're in touch with all sides to achieve a deal. At this time, media reports say Israel is not planning on sending a delegation to Qatar or Egypt for negotiations, only once positive developments take shape. Meanwhile, suffering in Gaza continues after Israeli officials decided to reportedly halt aid, citing Hamas continues to steal it and prevent it from being distributed. The Prime Minister's office ordered the IDF to present a plan within 2 days on how to prevent Hamas from grabbing aid handed out by the Israeli and U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The pause will reportedly remain in place until the IDF presents its new plan. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says they've delivered 44 million meals in just 4 weeks and are coordinating with partners on the ground to advance improvements to secure distribution. And joining us now to discuss what could happen next in the war in Gaza and the ongoing ceasefire between Israel and Iran is Danny Ayalon, the former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Good to be with you, Shosh.
My first question is, what is next with Iran? Is the ceasefire going to last? I think that's a question everybody wants to know. Tell us what you think.
Sure. Well, I think that we should close it with an agreement, with a very, very strong and long agreement, which would be different than the one that was signed in 2015. Wars always end with an agreement, with guarantees, international guarantees. And that should be no difference here with Iran, because if we do not have a very tight agreement, then they can get out of it and surreptitiously start again their illegal program.
Now, officials are continuing to say that Iran is the head of this snake as they fund all of the terror proxies in the region that surround Israel. But the damage that Israel did to Iran, did it also weaken Hamas, as that war is also ongoing right now?
Yeah, the damage was incredible. And actually what we saw in this 12 days war is the absolute superiority of Israel over Iran in terms of technology, strategic capabilities, military capabilities, and everything that goes with it. But certainly we have reestablished the deterrence here in this region, and we hope that there will be some good results also with in the Gaza, since Iran was the main backer of Hamas. Now Hamas has been actually left by itself. You know, all its allies, whether it's Hezbollah or the Iranian militias in Syria and Iraq, and of course Iran itself, are no longer really active players here, nor do they have the capabilities. I think this is high time to really have all the pressure on Hamas, and the ones that can do it best are Egypt on the one hand, Qatar on the other hand, and I hope that the United States can orchestrate the entire campaign.
But Danny, more pressure, could that lead to a possible ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas to finally close out what is happening there, to bring back the 50 hostages that are still in captivity at this time? Do you see that momentum that other officials are saying right now?
Well, I think the momentum started. Whether it will really culminate in a ceasefire and bringing back the hostages immediately, I'm not sure. So long as the Hamas insists on staying in Gaza or even ruling Gaza, this is a non-starter. After the 7th of October, I think it is quite clear to everyone, including the Gazans themselves, that Hamas can no longer stay in Gaza. Israel made a generous offer to them that they can have a safe exit out of Gaza. And if they do not take it, then we are in a stalemate, which may be solved only with more military pressure on Iran on Hamas on the ground, and maybe more political pressure from its allies in the Gulf, mainly Qatar.
Danny Ayalon, thank you so much for joining us today as all of these developments continue to unfold.
Thank you.
This is a moment to stand strong with Israel in times of great challenge. True support is measured by action. You can go to israelbonds.com now to invest in Israel bonds. Your investment is more than financial. It's a declaration of support as Israel defends freedom, life, and the values we all hold dear. Investing in Israel bonds is a decisive way to stand with Israel, not just in word, but in commitment. Let the world see where you stand. Israel is not alone. You can invest in Israel bonds today. And members of Iran's parliament broke out in Death to America and Israel chants after the parliament speaker announced the Islamic Republic would end its cooperation with a UN nuclear watchdog group after the war with Israel. Here's what else you need to know. Just one day after Iran laid down its ballistic missiles and stopped attacking residential areas in Israel, Iran's parliament speaker said it would suspend its cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, insisting Iran's nuclear program would now, quote, proceed at a faster pace. Iran's parliament erupted in chants saying death to America and death to Israel. The parliament-approved bill, which will now need final approval from Iran's Supreme National Security Council. And just days before Israel's operation and American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, the IAEA said Iran was in breach of its non-proliferation obligations. At the NATO summit, Trump announced the United States will meet with Iran next week, despite conversations about a nuclear deal no longer necessary, as American officials, including the CIA director, having said Iran's nuclear program has been severely destroyed.
I think we'll end up having somewhat of a relationship with Iran. I see it. Look, I've had a relationship over the last 4 days. They agreed to the ceasefire. And it was a very equal agreement. They both said, that's enough. They both said it.
The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, and the head of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, met in Paris to discuss Iran's nuclear program to assess radiological risks after the airstrikes in Iran. Grossi is now saying the IAEA doesn't know where the 900 pounds of potentially enriched uranium is now located inside of Iran after officials in Iran removed it for protective measures ahead of the strikes on the nuclear facilities. The IDF has revealed that Israeli commandos operated inside of Iran during the war. These and other revelations from IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir and Mossad head David Barnea, who commented on results of the 12-day war with Iran. Here's more with ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Giving his initial assessment of the 12-day Iran war, IDF Chief Eyal Zamir said the achievements were made possible, among other things, due to the full cooperation and deception by air and ground commando forces. Zamir said these forces operated covertly deep in enemy territory and carried out operations that granted the IDF operational freedom of action. Zamir said the overall goals of the war were accomplished and the Iranian nuclear program severely compromised.
לאחר 12 ימים של לחימה חסרת תקדים, אני יכול לומר, צה"ל פעל במיטבו ועמד באופן מלא בתכלית ובמטרות המבצע. בהתאם להערכת בכירי אגף המודיעין בצה"ל ומומחי הגרעין שלנו, הפגיעה בתוכנית הגרעין איננה פגיעה נקודתית, אלא פגיעה מערכתית. פגענו במתקנים הראשיים, במפעלים, בתעשיות ובמוקדי הידע. ההישג המצטבר מאפשר לקבוע כי פרויקט הגרעין האיראני ספג פגיעה קשה, רחבה ועמוקה, והושג שנים לאחור. הוכחנו את נחישותנו. לא נאפשר לאיראן לייצר נשק להשמדה המונית.
Meanwhile, Mossad head David Barnea issued a rare public comment. Speaking to agents, Barnea said that Israel will be in Iran for years to come. Barnea credited cooperation with the CIA.
אני רוצה להביע הערכה וגם הוקרה לשותף שלנו המרכזי, ה-CIA, על הפעילות המשותפת, על המבצעים שבאו לידי ביטוי, וגם לראש ה-CIA, שתמך במוסד בהבאת ההחלטות הנכונות, שבסופו של דבר אפשרו את המבצע הזה.
Barnea said the spy agency's achievements against Iran were unimaginable, with public details signaling involvement in assassinating top Iranian military leaders and nuclear scientists, as well as blowing up nuclear facilities and drone and ballistic missiles.
Just one day after missiles stopped flying between Israel and Iran, dozens of Jewish immigrants landed at Ben Gurion Airport. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman has a story behind their powerful homecoming.
At Ben Gurion Airport yesterday, just 24 hours after a ceasefire ended a deadly round of fighting between Israel and Iran, dozens of new immigrants arrived, many of them from France. Despite the recent violence, they say they're not afraid. For them, setting foot on Israeli soil is the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. With war still fresh in the air, Jewish immigrants landed in the country Wednesday, touching down to tears, cheers, and waving flags. They chose to move forward with what they call aliyah, immigration to the Jewish state. Some, like Tabore said they came for their children so they could grow up in Israel, join the IDF, and build their future here. Others spoke of rising anti-Semitism in Europe, a deep sense of Jewish destiny, and a longing to raise the next generation in the land of Israel. Doron Almog, chairman of the Jewish Agency for Israel, greeted the arrivals.
What is the motivation of Jews to come to Israel, this risky place? Unconditional love. It's something not rational.
Israel's return to normal came swiftly this week after a military campaign that wiped out top figures in Iran's nuclear and missile programs. Iran retaliated with a massive missile barrage, killing 28 in Israel. Authorities in Iran claim hundreds were killed there as well, though reporting has been restricted. Both sides claimed victory. But for these immigrants, the focus wasn't on politics or missiles. It was on a new beginning.
Today is like a dream coming true. For me, Israel is home, and I don't know how to explain this feeling, actually.
The wave of immigration marks not just personal milestones, but also a powerful message that even after rockets and loss, the dream of Israel remains alive. And for many, it's worth everything.
Do you know why Israel named its operation against Iran Rising Lion? The answer comes directly from biblical prophecy. You're looking at a military operation named by God. 3,000 years ago, Balaam couldn't curse Israel, so he spoke those words instead. Today, this very prophecy has come to fruition. In Hebrew, Am Kelavi means a lion nation, the same words chosen for this operation. Today, as Israel faces threats to its very survival, we witness the ancient words fulfilled, a people rising like a lion, not in aggression, but in the God-given right to defend their land. Pray for peace in Jerusalem and divine wisdom in these prophetic times.
And moving on now to sports, where the number of Jewish Israeli players in the NBA rises from 1 to 3 following last night's first pick for the NBA draft. They are American-Israeli Danny Wolf and Israeli Ben Saraf, both drafted back-to-back by the Brooklyn Nets. ILTV's sports correspondent Devo Klein breaks it down.
The first round of the NBA draft just wrapped up, with the Dallas Mavericks picking forward Cooper Flaggs as the #1 overall draft pick, in a move that is already being hailed as brilliant. But also drafted as round 1 picks are 2 Jewish Israeli players. The Brooklyn Nets selected Israeli guard Ben Saraf as their 26th pick, followed by Israeli-American Danny Wolf as the Nets' 27th pick. Ben Saraf was born in Israel and played in the European League last season for the German-based team. Ben's pick remains controversial due to him being the 4th pick and the 4th guard to be drafted by the Nets. And in the 27th draft pick, the Nets selected Israeli-American Danny Wolf, who spent the last season playing for Michigan after playing for Yale. Wolf gained a reputation as a rising star, playing for Michigan as a forward, making his pick less controversial. Yet fans are still wondering why the Brooklyn Nets selected 4 guards in their first round of picks. But for Israeli basketball fans, this news is incredible. Wolf and Saraf joined Danny Avdia as the current Israeli basketball players in the NBA, an achievement never before seen in the world of pro basketball.
Thank you, Devo, for that report. And we close today's show with an ILTV exclusive, an inside look into Tabore Winery located in the Lower Galilee. Have a look.
Tabore Winery was established in 1999 by 4 families of this village, Kfar Tabor. Tabore was a boutique winery. Today we produce something like 2 million bottles. In this village we have a lot of different kind of grapes. This is a Chardonnay, for example, one of our best-selling wines. The Tabore village has very different soil types, which makes it very diverse and very unique in the Israeli climate and terroirs. Today, Tabore has 140 hectares all over Israel to gain some more complexity to the wines, different varieties. So we have the Tabore village area, we have the Upper Galil, the Golan Heights, the Judan Hills, and the Mitzpe Ramon area. And we have more than 20 different varieties. By that, we can try what exactly is the best variety for each terroir. This area is actually planted by grapes because of the Baron de Rothschild, who sent his viticulturists to look for the best places to grow wine grapes all over Israel. One of those locations was the Tabore village, and that's why this is one of the best locations to grow grapes in Israel. So this is our barrel room. We have more than 1,000 barrels in Tabore. Barrels bring to wine some oak notes, complexity, oxygen in order to make the wine bigger and more complex with more flavors. The barrel itself coming from different area in France. It's made out of oak. Usually we keep those kind of barrels for 5 years. The wine ages in barrels between 1 and 2 years, depends on the series. The Adama level is 1 year in barrels, and our super premium Malkia and single vineyards are usually about 2 years in a barrel. We have here 4 different wines: Sauvignon Blanc, our Rosé Barbera, limited edition, and our flagship wine, Malkia. Sauvignon Blanc is one of our best wines. We are very known for Sauvignon Blanc. The style of the wine is very fruity and aromatic, almost like New Zealand style. Our rosé on the Adama level is a unique one. It's made 100% from Barbera grapes. So the color is very, very pale, and you have a very nice, fresh aromas of strawberries and chopped grass. So all the wines we tasted and more you can find online and in the wine stores. And if you're in Israel, you can come to our visitor center, taste some more wines, and you can buy here also.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast now. Cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 20 degrees Celsius or 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see sunny skies alongside hot temperatures, seeing highs of 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. You can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Shosh Bedrosian. Thanks so much for watching.